Hello everyone. I wanted to do a recording to share my thoughts and predictions with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. To start with that, I want to discuss a topic that's really an issue everywhere, and it's not specific to Call of Duty, but Call of Duty certainly isn't helping. So, if you'll notice on the tweets from Affinity Ward and a couple of other areas, it would appear that Ricochet Anti Cheat is going to be present in the next Modern Warfare. So why is that an issue? Well, it's a signal that Microsoft is going to be the platform for Modern Warfare 2. I've mentioned it before on my channel, but Linux is actually very capable at gaming, and like I said, I'm not a fan of it, but I recognize it's one of the few ways to break up the Microsoft monopoly. That's my intent here, because I'm getting really tired of seeing the Microsoft monopoly, and I know I'm not the only one commenting on it. So, yeah, that's really unfortunate. Now, to quickly kind of educate you on how I know it's locked to Windows. The only anti-cheat that I'm aware of that works with Linux is going to be Easy Anti-Cheat. Easy Anti-Cheat so far is the only anti-cheat that I'm aware of that works on Linux. So, unfortunately, even though Modern Warfare 2 is coming to Steam, which has the software called Proton that enables Linux compatibility, it's not really going to matter because the anti-cheat is anti-Linux. So, with that out of my system, I'm going to direct you to this list and one other list. And if you want to read it on your own time, then you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to do a whole long recording about Linux or really world problems. But it's pretty easy to see from this list and this list how much Microsoft owns the video game market. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to reference this exclusive Ace video because, one, he did a pretty good job of going through things, and two, he has some pretty good screenshots or artwork on his channel. The first thing I want to talk about that pops up in his video is this whole tree. Supposedly, this tree is going to make it so that when you do unlock the tree, you get the attachments across the board. So if you have an M4 and then you unlock the M16 and what was the other one? The laser attachment, yeah. So let's just say you do that where you unlock the M16 after the M4 and you have the laser attachment unlocked. Well, now that applies to both the M4 and M16 is more or less the summary of what I'm seeing, not just through his video, but the other tweets and things. So that's a good thing, because if this is truly how it's going to work, that would reduce the grind involved with Modern Warfare 2. That's one of the issues right now with the current Call of Duty titles, is the grind. They nerf or buff so hard that it causes people to change weapons almost every season, and that's just unhealthy. So if this can truly fix that grind, I'm all for it. Now, I want to share a prediction related to this whole thing, because it says M4, M16, and then what was the other one? Oh, LMG Fightlite, that's right. Now, I have a prediction about this, and real quickly, I know it's semantics, but they should have just called this the AR-15 platform, because really there's so many weapons based on the AR-15 platform, but whatever. Anyways, I have a prediction here. The thing that's mentioned there, the LMG, I think it's going to be the M27, and there's a very good reason that I have this prediction. It's because, as far as the AR-15 platform is concerned, the M27 is really one of the few quote-unquote LMGs. If you want to do some reading on this, there's actually a very long but very, very interesting declassified document publicly available that details the experiment the U.S. military did with the M27. More or less, a military branch within the U.S. military decided to try an experiment in which an entire squad was using LMGs or LMG-like weapons, and they were just kind of like testing things. It's a long story, but anyways, point is, the M27 was part of that. So, the M27 in real life actually has a custom-made drum magazine to it called the Magpul D27, and I don't have it pulled up, but you can find it pretty easy, which gives it 60 rounds. So this makes perfect sense, and that's part of prediction 1. Now, here's the other way I got my prediction. If you will remember, in Modern Warfare, there was the SA-87, which its real-life counterpart is this guy right here, the L-85. Now, the SA-87 was supposed to be kind of the more AR-like LMG of the LMG category, but it didn't turn out that way. Its ADS was pretty much identical to the other LMGs that got added later on. Yeah, so it really didn't turn out that way. I mean, it had better mobility, it had better reload time and things like that, but at the end of the day, that ADS was definitely LMG. It wasn't in between AR and LMG, so the SA-7 didn't do what it was supposed to, but regardless, that was the attempt with the S-87, was to be that kind of AR-like LMG, and I have a feeling the M27, if I'm correct about this prediction, is going to do just that for Modern Warfare 2. Okay. Let me see, I have to rewind now. Okay. So, this is kind of my gripe with the whole Modern Warfare thing, and I know it's minor nitpicking, but you'll notice that they did show the MP5 in the Gunsmith. Not just with Exclusive Ace's video, but there are other places that do show the MP5. Now, in my opinion, a game should match its theme, and in this case, the theme is Modern Warfare. Well, there's a problem with that. The various military units out there, as well as even law enforcement units, are actually in discussions of retiring their SMGs or have already retired their SMGs. I pulled up a picture here from Wikipedia because fairgrounds use and all that, but this is a picture of Gigan, which is France's, I guess you can say, CT unit, which does actually qualify as a law enforcement unit. They are actually using CZ Bren 805s these days, at least some of them. I don't know if it's a full unit thing, but point is that this is what the SMG is being replaced by. It's being replaced by carbines, aka short-barreled rifles. In this case, Gigan's using a 10-inch barrel CZ Bren 805, which is firing 7.62 by 39. That's the Russian 7.62, not the NATO. And you can even see that on the screen, I think. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, see, you can even see it in the text below the picture. It says 7.62 by 39. That's the Russian 7.62 measurement. It's the same one the AK fired. So, yes, that's what is slowly replacing SMGs, or have already replaced them, is the short-barreled rifle. So, I was kind of hoping that with Modern Warfare 2, that they would have embraced the Modern Warfare theme and moved away from SMGs and instead went to carbines, but whatever. Anyways, moving on. Okay, so back to this. So in Exclusive Ace's video, and I've seen this as well in other videos, is that he and a couple other people were saying that those bottom 4 boxes, you can add whatever modifications you want to. But it's these green ones at the top that's limited. I think somebody said, well, I know Exclusive Ace said 3, but I know that more than one person has said 2. So whatever the number is, it's probably going to be between 6 and 8 would be my prediction here. And the reason I'm predicting that is because Modern Warfare was 5, so 6 would be one more than Modern Warfare 1. Well, at least, well, let me phrase, the more current Modern Warfare. 7 would be 2 more. 8 would be 3 more. Now, I know that the request of the player community has been to not go the Vanguard route, because with Vanguard you have 10 attachments, which makes attachment choices fairly meaningless in certain ways. So by having less attachments, they're more meaningful, is the gist of what people have been saying about this whole thing. So, I think that's perfectly fine. If they want to just make it so that this gray box is, you can do whatever you want with it, but this green box is limited, perfectly fine with me. I think it's a happy alternative, at least on paper, for now anyways, and of course we'll see where it goes. But on paper, it appears to be a healthy compromise between Modern Warfare and Vanguard. At least that's what it appears to be. So we'll have to see where that goes. But moving on. Okay, there's one other thing I really want to talk about here, and this is something that I'm really hoping changes. I haven't seen any mention of this. So to understand what I'm about to talk about, I need to talk about the state of the current Call of Duty. So this is something I experienced and a couple other people early on, and I actually had tried with my YouTube recordings to break into the game analysis thing. But the thing I quickly realized, and other people quickly realized, is that the big names have all the say. So that's going to be JGod, True Game Data, and to a certain degree, Exclusive Ace. Now, Exclusive Ace, unlike the other two, he does a very, very good job. There are certainly things that I would disagree with, but overall, he wasn't as bad as the other two. Now, I'm not trashing anyone. I'm just saying that they're bad under certain circumstances. And what I'm referring to is how JGod, and to a certain degree, True Game Data, words their recordings or explanations. True Game Data does a little bit better job than JGod in my book, but regardless, let me give you an example so you can understand what I'm talking about. In a video a very long time ago, JGod basically said that the Dragunov was trash. That's fine. If you want to say that a gun is not for you. But what's not fine is saying that the gun is trash overall. The Dragunov has never been trash. It was, well, actually still is, I think. I can double check the date if need be. It has been the fastest TTK for multiple seasons. When Verdansk was around, it was the fastest TTK, and it turned out to be an absolute monster the day that they patched it in such a way that it didn't have damage drop-off. Because that was one of the problems the Dragunov had in Verdansk, was that it had a damage drop-off kind of like the other weapons. But once they removed that damage drop-off, it had the fastest TTK. It carried that fast TTK for multiple seasons, even out to the DMR 14 meta days. When the DMR 14 meta happened, Dragunov still had the top TTK. And there's a reason for that. It's because it wasn't a common weapon, so the devs had no intention of nerfing it. Now, kind of another thing that I think didn't help the Dragunov, and this is kind of showing you where I'm going with all this as well, is that the Dragunov actually required knowledge of the game and knowledge of the gun itself in order to be effective. You see, the Dragunov had a chevron system in its default scope. Now here's where things get really interesting. The Dragunov chevrons were specific to ranges. So the first chevron was 100 meters, second was 200, third was 300, and fourth was 400 meters. The cool thing about this is that it was insanely accurate because it told you the exact bullet drop that you had to account for through those chevrons. So if your target was at 400 meters, then you had to put the fourth chevron on the target. That was how accurate it was. But most people weren't aware of that because they were so used to point and click that they just couldn't read the scope. And then they ruined the accuracy by putting on either a skin or another scope. So that was kind of the issue with the Dragunovs. It required not only knowledge of it, but also the game, because you had to know to put waypoints down to tell you the distance to your target. If you didn't put a waypoint down, it was very difficult to know the exact distance to the target. The RAL, which did have a scope that told you the distance to your target, didn't come until much later, but even then, that scope was, well, I should say optic, was unique to the RAL. So yes, the Dragunov had two issues, but it definitely was not trash. It was just poorly handled, that's all. But either way, my point with all this is to show you that that's where JGod got things wrong. Is he worded things like that, where he said the Dragunov was trash. Now, like I said, it was a gun that required knowledge, but here's the thing. Even despite Ponyhoff, I think is how you pronounce that YouTuber's name, and Exclusive Ace taking the Dragunov into Warzone, people still ignore it. Why? Because JGod, and True Game Data have far more say in the community than Exclusive Ace does. and for that matter, Ponyhoff. Sure, some people might listen to Ponyhoff, but not to the degree, well, or exclusive A's, but they're certainly not going to listen to them to the degree that they were listening to True Game Data and JGod. That's the bottom line. So it's fair to say that content creators were using their name to essentially gate the meta. And that was not a great way of handling things. So I would hope that with this next Call of Duty, that they make all the detailed stats available within the Armory page. Because if that's available down to the exact number, then people can see for themselves, without going to a website like True Game Data, that this gun has X TTK and X ADS. That's the only way to break those two up. So, again, I'm not trashing them. I'm just saying that they got certain things wrong, and it would have been easily correctable had they worded things better. That's it. Nothing more. Now, I'll end on a personal note here. I did test these guns myself, and I can confirm through multiple metas that the underrated guns were actually doing a lot better, like the SA-7 and Dragunov and all of that. They were doing perfectly fine, and still are to a certain degree. Heck, I even looked. The SA-7 right now has the exact same TTK as a base STG-44 in Rebirth. They're both 600 millisecond TTK. So that goes to show you, the SA-7 hasn't been touched since Verdansk, and it's still keeping up. It's ludicrous to me that people disregard the data so blatantly, despite having it all in front of them. But maybe that will be fixed one day. That's all I have. Thanks for listening.